What's up, everyone? And today I'm bringing a deck profile on my Golemn Code Talkers. Now, Golemn is a new archetype that was released in the Crystal Revenge set, and this archetype has a lot of potential to be very good in Cyber engines. Unfortunately, the two, I'd say, best Cyber strategies you can't really play it in, which is Marine sets and Salt Mangrates. More of those because those lock you into waters, and Salamander Grade can also lock into fire as well. So I looked at Code Talkers as to pair with the G Golems, and it actually works out pretty well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I run 3 G Golem Pebble Dog. Pebble Dog, when it's normal or special summon, you can add to your hand or special summon 1 G Golem Pebble Dog from your deck. Although you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Cyber's monsters, which isn't really too much of a restriction because most of what we go into is Cybers, but we do run some stuff that it's not Cybers, so it does matter somewhat, but not too much. Additionally, if this card is sent from the hand to the graveyard, you can add a G-Golem card from your deck to your hand. Like, for example, G-Golem Rockhammer, which I run 3 of. Now, Rockhammer is really cool. It's a token generating. You essentially contribute it to special summon 3 G-Golem tokens. Now, unfortunately, it's not up to, so you have to have at least like 3 spots in order to summon those 3 tokens. And if this card is in your hand, you can discard one other Cyber monster, reduce this card's level by 2 until the end of this turn, even after it's summoned. So essentially you can make it a level 4, which will make it, basically you can normal summon it. Then again, we already have a monster that can just spell summon from the hand, so even if you're not able to use that effect, then that's pretty good. But you mainly want it for the token generating. This is pretty much all I run for the G Golem because the extra deck monsters aren't really that great, and the rest of the support doesn't really do a lot extra. So, like, maybe with a little bit more support, this is could be good. Like, honestly, if this gets more support, this is definitely an archetype that could have a tier 1 potential. Just because its ability, just because it summons tokens. Any deck that summons tokens is always going to have that potential. Now for the Code Talkers, I got 3 Microcoder. The Code Talkers are actually a very interesting deck. Code Talkers, essentially, if you were to spell summon a Code Talker from the extra deck, you can use Code Talkers in your hand as material, which is really cool. So you don't necessarily have to have them on the field to use them for link material. Now, when they're used for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, they each gain different effects. Microcoder allows you to add 1 Silent Spell Trap for your deck to your hand. So you can use it to get, for example, Silent Mining, which you can just use to search out other stuff. Also run the 3 Code Generator. Code Generator allows you to Foolish. If you send it for the link summon of Code Talker, you can Foolish 1 monster with 1200 or less attack. But if it was on the field and you link summoned it away, then you can add it to your hand instead. So basically, depending on if you link summon them from using them in your hand or on the field, their effects will change slightly, but you're going to be getting something regardless. It just may change, like instead of Foolishing, it's a Rhoda. Also run 3 Code Exporter. This allows you to target level 4 or lower Cyber monster in the graveyard at your hand, or if this card was on the field, you can special summon that monster instead. And also run the 2 Code Radiator. Code Radiator is better going second because it allows you to target one face-up monster opponent controls, change its attack to 0, and then get its effects. And if it was on the field, you could use 2 monsters or target 2 monsters instead of 1. Code Talkers are definitely very solid to pair with the G Golem strategy. Now, I could run a bunch of generic cyber stuff like backup secretary, stuff like that, but it doesn't really get you too much advantage, and if you don't control the cybers, it's a little bit more finicky. Next, I run 3 copies of Lady Debug. Lady Debug is pretty cool because if you normally special summon it, you can add 1 level 3 or lower Cybers monster from your deck to your hand. You can use it to get Code Generator, Microcoder, G Golem, or any other Cybers monsters that you want, which is definitely going to be very crucial. So for example, let's say you normal summon it and you grab Code Generator. Then you can just go into a link using the Code Generator in your hand. So Lady Debug can just get your play started. And we do link summon. And when you link summon, you got to run the 3 Parallel Exceed. Not only does it give you more stuff to use for link fodder, but you can also make a rank 4 with it, which we do run. And that does come up. So Parallel Exceed is definitely very important for the strategy. I also run the 1 Dot Scaper and the 1 Prohibit Snake. Dot Scaper, when it is link summoned and sent to the graveyard, or not if it's just sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it from the grave once per duel. And Prohibit Snake, you can banish it to target banish it from the graveyard, target 1 level 4 lower Cyber monster in the graveyard, add it to your hands. It's a little bit of recursion. And it's also a level 2, which does come up. Lastly, for hand traps, I run 2 effect value. Now this can be 2 Ash, 2 Imperm. Basically, I have 2 free spots for a hand trap. Moving on to spells, I run 3 Silent Mining. Silent Mining is really cool, and it's also searchable off of the microcoder. You can send 1 card from hand to the graveyard, and then add 1 level 4 lower Cybers monster from your deck to your hand. So it searches almost the entire deck, with the exception of like Parallel Exceed and I think like Code Exporter, because I think Exporter is level 5. Also run 1 Signet Codec. This one comes up sometimes. It's not really a card you need to have, but you gain a lot from running it. So whenever you link summon a Code Talker monster from the extra deck, you can add 1 Cybers monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand. And that's not a once per turn, but you can only add 1 of the same type once per turn. So let's say we summon a Dark Code Talker, we can add a Dark Cybers. And then let's say we summon a Earth Code Talker. Then we can add an Earth Cybers from deck to hand. But we won't be able to get another Earth or Dark for the rest of the turn. Next, I got Small World. Definitely helps in getting to the cards you want to have most, like the Code Talkers and the Golemn. So like, let's say you open up your hand and all you have is Prohibit Snake. You can use Prohibit Snake and Small World to get into a card you'd rather actually want. Also run the 1 Monster Reborn and the 2 World Legacy Succession, considering this deck is more or less just summon a bunch of Link monsters, which, with that being the case, World Legacy Succession is pretty much always going to be online. Next, I run 2 Pot of Avarice. Pot of Avarice, I definitely want to run 2 of, just because I go through so many cards. Like, by the end of my turn 1, I probably have like maybe 10 to 12 monsters in the graveyard, so it's just an extra draw 2, which is definitely really good. Of course, you also got the 1-for-1, which works with Dot Escaper, and the Microcoder, which is the level 1. And you definitely want to see Microcoder mostly, considering it can add the Silent Mining. And I also got the 1 Call by the Grave, because you don't want to get hand trapped in pretty much any deck. Moving on to the extra deck. I got the 1 Code Talker. Code Talker, I more or less just have it as a name and the fact that its arrows are pointing down, because also run the 1 Code Talker Inverted. Now Inverted is actually pretty cool because you special summon a Cybers from hand, but you don't want to go for this first because you won't have any arrows pointing downwards, so you can't even activate its effect. But if you go into the Code Talker first, then we can basically do that, and then we can summon the Cybers from hand to either of these areas. Next, I run Decode Talker Heat Soul. Heat Soul's okay. You can draw a card whenever you summon it, or not when you summon it, but you can pay 1,000 life points to draw 1 card, which is pretty cool. And if your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from the field, and if you do, special summon a Link 3 or lower Cybers monster from your extra deck, which is definitely pretty cool. But you more or less just use it for the draw. Also run 1 Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker allows you to special summon a Link 3 or lower Cybers Link monster from your graveyard. You can also be used for extending. Also run the 1 Link Disciple, which is definitely really good in this deck because you don't really use it for its effect, but it's a Link 1. So it can open up your plays a bit more in the same way as Code Talker. Also run 2 Link Karibo, considering we do summon tokens and definitely need to change those into effect monsters. Also got the 1 Splash Mage, which allows you to target Cybers monster in your graveyard, supposed to summon it in defense position. So unfortunately, can't summon Link monsters. That'd be really nice, but it's still really good because you can just turn that into a Link 3. Also run the 1 IP Masquerena. Definitely always want to end on IP Masquerena, because a lot of cards are going to lock you into Cybers. And unfortunately, Apollousa is a fairy. So with IP Masquerena, you can basically summon it, and then on your opponent's turn, you can go into the Apollousa, because then you're not restricted to the Cybers. Also run interesting 1 Sprite Elf. I don't really run any sprites. Originally I was, but it just wasn't really working out as well as I'd like to. So I just cut the Sprite Blue and Thunders, but I'm still keeping the Sprite Elf, more or less because it can be used because you do run level 2s like the Prohibit Snake and the Golemn Dog, and that does come up. Also run 1 Topologic Zeraboros. Usually you're going to go for IP to go into Apollousa, but sometimes if you can't go into that, Zeraboros is a pretty solid option, although it's, it can be self-destructing too, because all the Topologics can be self-destructing. But if you just want to summon that and more or less sit on that, that can also win you games as well. Of course, also run the pre-mentioned Apollousa. as well as an Axis Code Talker. Come on, why would we not run this? Now for XYZs, I run 2. I run the 1 Gigantic Sprite. Sprite is pretty good. I mainly run it to summon the Golemn Pebble. So let's say I didn't open the Golemn Pebble. For my last play, I can just go into Sprite and then summon the Golemn Pebble, which will special summon another Golemn Pebble, which you can then use both of them for IP Masquerena. And lastly, 1 Baguska. If you open Parallel Exceed, it's another good kind of disruption and a pretty annoying one at that. So that's it for my Golemn Decode Talker, or not Decode Talker, my Golemn Code Talker deck profile. What do you think of Golemn? Do you think it's a deck that has potential? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.